My name's Fred McNeil, and you're watching QAC TV 7. Thank you for being with us. We started part 1, or we completed part 1, where we went with Woody from about 1924 up to World War II. And let's continue. You started saying everybody thought it was their duty to get involved and take part in World War II. You want to elaborate on that a little bit? Times have changed a little bit, I think.
Yeah, well, as I said, because the Japanese had invaded us, so to speak, every young man felt that he had to and wanted to get in service.
It was his
couldn't
duty.
wait.
Okay.
Of course, some couldn't because they were farmers and they were necessary to produce the food and different things here at home. But everybody had their own bit. We had volunteer organizations. During the war, we had blackouts. You couldn't have lights on. And
did you actually have the shades for
blackout?
blackout?
You had shades pulled down. All mobiles had just little slits on the headlights and so forth. And we had air raid wardens. We had out here by Melfield, as you go to Pointer Point,
right.
There was a high point around here. There we had an aircraft spotting station.
We actually had a spotting station.
Yeah, so,
the invasion.
So everything was geared towards the war.
Okay.
We had powder plants in Chestertown and Elkton where they built detonator caps and things of that type. And a lot of ladies worked there. They'd catch the bus here in front of the courthouse.
And actually go up to Chestertown.
Go up to Chestertown and work, or Elkton to work, like that. So everything was geared towards the war effort.
Tell me about Company K, or the reserve. Is that the correct designation?
It wasn't a reserve. It was a National Guard unit that was nationalized.
Oh, nationalized.
And they were all local people. They trained each week, and then they had summer camps at Delaware Water Gap or in different places.
And they were so nationalized, meaning the federal government says we're going to call you up and send you overseas.
They called them up. I have a picture at home of showing them in training, getting on the train.
Oh, wow.
After they'd been nationalized.
Okay.
Service.
Taking them, and you said they went to England first?
They spent their whole time in England training for the invasion.
Okay. Now, how did you get in the Pacific? Didn't you say you were in the Pacific?
Yeah.
Or is that a story?
Well, that's where we were needed at the time, and besides, the commanding officer of my outfit was of German origin, so he was interested in fighting the Japanese
and his relatives. Yeah. Okay. So go over now. Had you gone to college then or not?
I went to Washington College for 2 years.
So you had 2 years of college. Were you an officer and enlisted?
No, I became a tech sergeant, which is the second highest grade you have, and in the engineering section. And so we had a great deal of experience. So. And
go over again. We started in the first show. Name those places, because you were in all the hot spots.
Well,
Okinawa.
We were at Guadalcanal. This was after the Battle of Guadalcanal, but we were building different types of buildings there. Then we went to Espiritu Santos in the New Hebrides Islands, built a rest camp for a 28th Division, which had a serious battle up in
like an R&R camp when you say a rest camp.
And then we went to New Caledonia, and we built a headquarters for the Southwest Pacific Base Command. We built a 120,000 square foot office building in 3 months, complete with everything. And we took amphibious training, and then we went in the invasion of Okinawa and built a lot of roads and airfields and water supply points and hospitals and things of that nature.
So you're just building all around the Pacific. That's right. We're marching towards Japan, right?
And then we were scheduled to invade Kyushu, Japan, which is the lower southernmost island of Japan. The war ended, and we went to Korea. Korea had been occupied by the Japanese for about 30 years, and so we were the base engineers while all the Japanese were sent home and the Korean government was reformed.
Where were you in Korea? What did you remember?
I was between Incheon and Seoul.
Oh, so okay, all right.
And the oddity is that I met a couple of guys from Centerville while I was there, and one of them was Bernard Kaufman, and he was a carpenter around, and the other one was Royden Powell.
Royden Powell, okay.
Royden and I had Christmas dinner in 1945 in Korea.
Inside Korea, okay. Now, how many years were you actually gone now in the service?
I was gone 3 years in service, 2 years in the Pacific.
And yet, so then you come back.
So I came back, and then I was accepted to Johns Hopkins University and graduated in civil engineering from there.
Okay, and now Woody, then you got involved in all types of neat stuff, but let me just interject a couple of things. When you came back from the war, obviously you'd changed. Had Centerville and Queen Anne's County changed? Or?
Really not too much at that particular time. There wasn't much money available at the time, and everything was directed towards the war effort. It was after that that changes began to occur.
Okay.
And as I say, transportation elements changed a lot, which created a lot of the change, and businesses began to change. Small businesses went out of business, and people started to travel to distant places to do their shopping and recreation and things of this type. And so that's where most of the changes. And the schools didn't change. Of course, we had the integration of schools and the concentration of one of the schools as into one school in the whole county.
Right.
At the same time, they
consolidated
had
high school,
desegregation. That's
okay.
right.
So you come back. Let's go back. You come back. You've got 2 years of Washington College under your belt. You go to Hopkins, and then how did it take us from there?
Well, I went to work with the State Highway Administration. It was then State Roads Commission as a construction project engineer.
Okay.
And then later I became responsible for all of the road and bridge construction from the Susquehanna River to the Choptank River, the 5 upper counties of the shore. And then I was transferred to Baltimore and became chief of a new organization called the Administrative Division. My boss used to introduce me and compare me with the engineer on the train. That when the train was in the station, he walked around with his oil can to keep things moving. And then I became a program coordinator. I worked on the Bay Bridge, Parallel Bay Bridge, and other major projects. Then I became chief engineer, and after that I resigned and went to work with the Rouse Company, which developed the new city of Columbia.
Well, that must have been interesting.
And so I've had the opportunity to have major responsibilities for expressways, bridges, tunnels, and a new city.
Okay, it's not bad. On the resume, it looks pretty good. Tell me about Rouse and his idea of Columbia. I mean, was this a...
Well, Rouse was from Easton.
Right.
And he was a visionary. He was in the service, he was in the Navy, he was in mortgage banking business, and then they had this vision that began with enclosed shopping malls. Herondale Mall over in Glen Burnie was one of the earliest enclosed shopping malls east of the Mississippi.
And that's Rouse's idea.
And that was, yeah, and then from that they developed major intercity marketplaces like Fountain Hall Marketplace in Boston, Harbor Place in Baltimore.
A place you could go when there's all types of stuff.
Where you could have shopping, and it was a fun place to do. Yes. And they had this vision about this new city with, between Baltimore and Washington. And the secret to that was developing or obtaining 14,000 acres of contiguous land. And he had several concepts. One was to recognize and protect the environment, which was early thought in those days. And as a consequence, about 36% of those 14,000 acres of Columbia was open space.
Okay.
And then we had led the country somewhat in stormwater management controls.
He was way ahead of his time.
That's right. And of course, one of his visions was to make some money too.
Okay, nothing wrong with that.
But it was Columbia was a people place, and it was comprised of 9 villages and a number of neighborhoods within the villages.
Now, Rouse, I mean, it was his idea that you could walk and exercise and shop.
Well, yeah, he used to always say in many of his speeches that he had he would explain what he could do in a week and not use an automobile. But if he did, he used an automobile, and if he used a Volkswagen, he could only use a few gallons of gas or something of this type. And you might be interested at Marguerite Thomas, who worked at Gunston School for many years.
I know the name.
Was in a classmate of his down
in Easton. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did Rouse ever live in Columbia at such a time?
Yes.
Oh, he actually did. Okay.
He lived there. He was a man who practiced what he preached.
Okay, so he was going to build this city that he could walk around, ride bikes, etc., etc.
Yeah, and it had a big pathway system, and it didn't have any churches. It had an interfaith center, which was shared by the different denominations.
Okay.
But and then schools were open space type of schools.
Right. Okay. At the time, which was a novel idea. Yeah.
So there were many innovative things that he started, based upon discussions he had with national leaders in different fields.
Right. Now, towards the end of his life, is Columbia? Did it become what he wanted? I mean, did his dream kind of come true, or did it get away from him? Or what?
No, it largely became true. It was a very integrated city.
Okay.
I think that where it fell down originally was it didn't create a lot of the low-priced housing that was anticipated.
Okay.
But it's now a city of 100,000 people.
It's a wonderful community.
And it's a mixed-use community. It can be self-contained insofar as employment is concerned and all. So it was a very interesting project.
Did Rouse, am I correct, did he want to do at one time develop Y Island?
At the time I went with them, they were contemplating placing a planned town on Y Island.
Okay, what happened with that?
The people around here thought I was being employed to work on that project, which is not the case.
Yeah.
I probably would have worked on it along with some others, but the county commissioners and others just rejected the idea.
Just didn't like the idea.
Yeah.
He just gave
Many of them regretted that later.
Oh, now did he want like a mini Columbia, or was this going to be a resort?
No, it was just a residential.
Oh, residential?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Just a small portion. Most of the island would have been kept natural.
Wait, what? Did Rouse have other projects, or was that?
Oh, yeah. I personally had a project in Wilmington, North Carolina, which we took over, and I worked on one up in Buffalo, New York, on Lake Erie, a mixed-use project there, and worked on White Marsh and Owings Mills facilities in the Baltimore area.
Okay.
But Rouse Company had about 50-some shopping malls and half a dozen, 8 in the inner city places like Harbor Place.
Okay, so he was involved. He had his fingers in a lot of places.
Yeah, but Columbia and Reston, Virginia, and Irvine, California are the successful new towns.
Okay, and they've kind of changed the way many of us think about communities and how you should live, right?
That's right,
okay.
Exactly. And but it won't be done anymore because you can't finance it. You can't amass the land.
It's too expensive.
And that's right. It just and government subsidies don't work.
Don't work now. Okay. Woody, how about let's go back to your...
Yeah, get back to Centerville.
No, well, I was going to say off the touchy. Let's go back to with your years in the state. Yeah. You were involved with the second Bay Bridge?
Yes.
Now, how massive of a... I mean, we all sit around here, everyone's like me, says, oh, it's so simple, just build a third bridge. It's not that simple, is it?
No, we had some difficulties with it. for one thing, we had to obtain had a place to dump dredged materials from the piers, and there was opposition to that. We had to locate suitable soils to replace that, and that involved dredging, and people were opposed to that. There was controversy as to whether that the parallel bridge would be built or a southern crossing in lieu of that, or a northern crossing, and it was determined to build the parallel bridge. But during the time that I worked with the highway department was the one time when we had the largest road building project, transportation project in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
And
so you had money.
All the interstate highways, all of the Appalachian highways, most of the toll facilities, all the major transportation elements.
Were done at that time because you had the money and you had people that believed in it.
And people wanted it.
Oh yeah, they demanded it.
Yeah, then it got to the time where people were concerned about impact on their own individual lives, on an environment and other thing, and they began to question, well, is the need as great as we thought it was, you know, and I guess it was in the late 60s and early 70s that high opposition to many of the facilities developed, and of course it's gotten stronger over the years.
Slow all this stuff down.
Yeah. It seems like no matter what you try to do today, not only in transportation, in schools or any public facilities, not in my backyard.
Oh, I know. Do it in his backyard. Woody, how about the Centerville? A lot of people say to me, Fred, World War II and the Bay Bridge were the biggest things that brought about change in Centerville. You agree, disagree?
Well, yes, I agree, because World War II created opportunities which didn't exist in Centerville in the way of employment and so forth, and changes in the transportation system. The Bay Bridge was a big link. Prior to that, because the Delmarva Peninsula runs in a north-south direction and the transportation followed that direction, our activities were directed more towards Wilmington and Philadelphia than they were Baltimore and Washington. And so when the bridge was built, although there were ferries before that, the bridge provided this connection between the eastern shore and the western shore, which has had benefits for both sides and it had detriments for both sides.
Right.
No doubt about that.
Some people thought Bay Bridge was the greatest thing in the world. Others want to blow it up tomorrow.
I remember my father-in-law told me when we started the second Bay Bridge, said, it's a damn shame you ever built the first one.
Woody, let me ask you this. We got about 5 minutes left. Let's take out our crystal ball a little bit. As we sit here as two old guys, and we both have a great admiration for Centerville in the past and what a delightful village it was and still is. Where do you think as an engineer, and what's going to happen next 20, 25 years? What's going to happen to little old Queen Anne's County?
Well, you can't just think about Centerville or Queen Anne's County. You have to think about the whole eastern shore. And when you look at the shore, Salisbury has been a hub for the southern shore. Dover, Delaware, has been a hub for the central shore, and then of course Wilmington to the north and all. And so that Easton was pretty quick to grow. It grew because a lot of wealth developed around and moved into the area there. They were a very forward type of county. Chestertown was a little bit slower to develop, and Centerville the least. Centerville has been primarily a center for agriculture and government, being a county seat for both federal and state governments, and it still is. And so it's very difficult today to create industry, not just here, but anywhere. Most of our industry has gone out of the country because of lower labor costs and so forth. But so that instead of industrial parks, we see commerce parks and all. And we have become more of a service type of community instead of industrial. At some time, I think we had to go back to that. I think that that at some point in time, people have to move back to the old theory that you lived where you worked.
Right, right.
And
Rouse's idea, right?
yeah, because we don't have won't have the resources to provide the transportation that for the type of activities that we've enjoyed since then. And so we'll go back to company towns eventually, perhaps. So there will be opportunities here for some industrial growth, but it'll be slow.
Okay.
And I think that it will primarily be a residential county, unfortunately.
It's going to be a community, don't you think? Yeah.
From an economical standpoint, you can't just be a residential community. Taxes are too high.
We're a county seat, right? It's going to be
that's right. So it will continue pretty much the way it is now, but gradually it will grow and have a little more commerce and light industry.
Okay.
But it'll take time to do it.
Okay, last question. This is one where I have the most. Last question, Woody. If you had a magic wand and you could bring back anything from 1924 that's now gone, whether it's the New York Steakhouse or the minor league ball team or the liquor store or the ABC store with a board, what's something you'd like to bring back so the young people could get maybe a flavor of old Centerville? Is there one institution or a couple?
I think it's a culture, really. As Centerville was small, everybody knew one another. Everybody was friendly. You didn't agree on a lot of things, but you agreed to disagree.
And you waved at each other.
And you waved to one another. There were times that I can remember the last day of school, which we're approaching today, you walking home from school with your report card. One of the businessmen would say, "Let me see your report card. How'd you do?"
They knew who you were.
And they give you a dime and all. And everybody knew one that was friendly and relaxed and all. Today, unfortunately, I don't know anybody around hardly anymore.
It's changed.
My generation has passed on, and a lot of the younger people have gone into other areas. But I think that friendliness and the purpose, the type of discipline that the community feeling is the thing that I would really like to see recover. People are too busy now. I mean, we have soccer moms on Sunday instead of Sunday school. We don't have the type of activities that we'd like to have necessarily at the schools anymore. There's just too many governmental constraints.
Okay, so you'd like to get that old-time Centerville atmosphere. My last thought's going to share with you.
Responsibility, individual responsibility.
Okay, it's still a town in that I walk or ride my bike. You know what? You can still wave to strangers, and they wave back. I hope we never lose that.
My older son, when he was young, and we were living in the Baltimore area, came over to work for his grandfather, who was in the building business. And they would gather here on the courthouse green every morning at 7 o'clock to go to their work assignment.
Right.
After the first week, I asked Wally, I said, how did you like Centerville? He said, "Oh, it's great. Everybody's just friendly." He said, "They waved to one another, so I just would sit there and keep my arm up and wave like this." I didn't know who they were.
It's easier that way.
But it was a good, friendly town. But it all comes back to the individual. And as I said, the schools and the churches were the focal points of the activities and the home life.
Right.
And the various organizations like the Boy Scouts and the 4-H clubs and the homemakers clubs and which foster a community being. We I think folks try to do too much for the children today. We don't want them to go through some of the things that we went through and all like that. And I think that there's home and responsibility and individual responsibility that we really need to get back to.
Good.
No matter whether it's Centerville or where else.
The whole world, perhaps, right. Well, Woody, thank you very much, all right? And this is a delightful town.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Fred. We've only scratched the surface.
Well, we might do 10 more shows.
You could go on for hours and hours talking about Centerville, and of course Harry Rhodes talked about Queenstown and people in Sudlersville and Churchill. Dick Smith's family came from Churchill,
Right.
and Stevensville. Kent Island has changed and tremendously, but all in all, it's been a great place to be.
Oh, it's a delightful place.
Right.
Well, Woody, thank you very much, and we'd like to thank everyone watching QAC TV7, and we'll see you next time.